What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be checking out our new build. This is a 1987 BMW 318i. We actually picked this thing up from a friend of mine. He actually got kind of scammed on it. The thing is, they said it had only 160,000 miles, but it turns out, we talked to the original owner, this thing has over 300,000 miles and it has a lot of electrical issues, but we're going to get all that sorted out. Let's go ahead and do a little walk around the car and see what we're working with here. As you can see, this entire side looks pretty good. The paint is in decent condition over here, but obviously it's been sitting in the sun, so it kind of faded and peeled off all the paint down to the metal over there. Let's continue walking around the car. Looks pretty good. All the moldings, everything is here, so it looks like it wasn't really abused that much, because this is a car that's over like 35, 40 years old. It's not as old as our Mustang that we were building here. We're actually taking a little break on this car because there's just so much stuff to do on it. I kind of got burned out on it. Probably will be doing an episode, maybe one episode a week or something like that, just so we can continue working on that car. But this car right here is just gonna be so awesome. We're gonna basically redo it just like an original E30 with just some simple little mods. I don't want to go too crazy on it. I want to just show you guys the restoration progress. Now we come to the back of the car. We do have a little bit of damage right here, which isn't too bad, and a little bit right here, which we'll just be able to pull out and bondo pretty simply. So let's go ahead and check out the passenger side of this car. There's little to no rust on this car, which is pretty crazy. We do have a little bit of rust starting right there, but gladly this wheel arc is not rusted, because if you see a lot of these E30s, they usually start rusting out in here. We'll also check the trunk in a little minute. Let's go ahead and continue walking around. This side is good. All the moldings are here, which is super cool. The front end is also, it all looks original. It doesn't look like it's ever been in an accident. We're about to pop the hood and check it out in there. Then we have the front end, looks pretty good. All the grills are still here. There's no visible damage where it's been in an accident or anything. So let's go ahead and pop the hood and see what we're working with under there. Just check out how cool the hood opens on these cars. That's one of the coolest features of this car. The hood just opens upwards like that. Not many cars have that. Let's go ahead and see what we have going on under here. And it does look like all the fenders are original. They might have been taken off at some point, but as you can see, all the seam sealer matches up pretty good. And we don't have any visible damage on the front apron section or the radiator support, which is pretty cool. And we might have a new radiator in there. I'm not too sure about that, and possibly an alternator. But this thing does have 300,000 miles. The speedometer says 160, but the previous owner, or not the previous owner, the previous owner before the previous owner, they actually told us it had 300,000 miles, and it does run a bit rough. We'll be driving it here in a minute, but everything looks like it's there in the front. We don't really have any like weird problems, like any wiring that's been cut up or ripped up, so that's pretty good. Now let's move on to the interior. Man, everything is almost freaking perfect in here. We do obviously have the dash that's cracking. It is an older car, so that usually happens on most of them, but like the door panels, everything is mostly here. We're not really missing anything, which is pretty good. And then inside we do have a radio that is gone, but we will definitely be putting something aftermarket in here. But we have everything looking pretty good, and the sunroof still works, which is pretty cool. Check this out. You simply just crank it and you just close it just like that. That is freaking awesome right there. And then if you want to keep going, you just push it a little bit and it lifts up like that. We have the seats are still in pretty good condition. The top area of that seat, I guess they got a little bit of sun damage and it kind of started ripping up, but that's okay because we are going to be redoing all the seats in this car. But the coolest thing is all the windows, everything is in pretty daggum good condition. So let's go ahead and fire this thing up and see if we can take it on a test drive. Let's see if we can crank this thing up. It does have a lot of miles on it, but it is a BMW, so hopefully it starts right up. So we're gonna let it idle a little bit, get it up to warm temperature so we can drive it. It does seem like it is running a bit rough right now, but I think it just needs to be ran through because it hasn't been driven in over a month. So let's go ahead and warm it up and see if we can take it up the road. So we're in the car right now. We're gonna go ahead and give it a little test drive. It does seem like the wipers won't turn off. They keep staying on. And we do have some issues with the tachometers really kind of not working, but let's go ahead and drive this thing. It is a 5-speed, which is pretty cool. Absolutely love that. Let's see how it drives. And the brakes on this thing are a bit sketchy. They kind of sink all the way down to the bottom, but they do work. So we're just gonna keep cruising here. I think we did already check the oil, so before any guys start talking about the oil, we've already checked it. We checked all the fluids, and it's surprisingly it's driving pretty good. The brakes are a little touchy, so it might need a new brake booster or something like that, but they do work pretty good. The AC doesn't work. I don't know why. I'm guessing it's just been sitting for a couple of years, but that's okay because it's driving awesome. The clutch is pretty good too. It's switching through all the gears. So I don't know, we might even rebuild this original engine and keep it, but I'm not too sure yet. I kind of want to swap something else in here, but possibly either an LS or some kind of BMW engine. Just go ahead and drop some comments down below because I want this build to be, we're going to be doing a lot of recommendations. You guys can drop in comments, and we're actually going to be listening to what you guys want to see on this build. It's a super cool car. I'm super excited to start working on something because like the Mustang, it's just, there's so much stuff you have to do, and the episodes just aren't coming out as quickly as I'd want them. And I know you guys are always asking about it, and we can't really make content. This is gonna be a cool car to make a lot of content. Now let's head back to the shop and we'll start doing some more digging into this car. We're gonna go ahead and see if we can do a little drift in it, see how much power this thing has, see if this motor can handle it. So we are kind of down on power, and I'm guessing this doesn't have an LSD in the rear end, so it won't drift. Let's go ahead and get this thing back to the shop because we're gonna have to spice it up a bit. So we got the car back in the shop, and I was surprised it actually did a little bit of a burnout or a drift, whatever you want to call it. So it does still have a little bit of power, but obviously we're gonna have to bump that up. I'm aiming for around 1,000 horsepower out of this car. Not too sure what engine we're gonna put in it yet. We are calling some people up and see what we can do. What do you guys think? What should we put? Should we go with a BMW motor, an LS, maybe a 2JZ, something pretty cool and unique? Go ahead and drop a comment down below because we want you guys to be a part of this build. That's what we're gonna be doing. So make sure you also follow us on Instagram at vTuned. We're gonna be doing some polls and cool stuff like that. Now let's get into what we're gonna start doing with this car today. So the first thing we're gonna start on this car is start stripping it down because we are gonna be giving the entire car a nice fresh paint job, and we really wanna paint the entire engine bay, basically everything on the car. So let's go ahead and get this car on 4 jack stands set up right here, and we're gonna start disassembling it. So before we get this thing on jack stands, I wanna tell you guys how much we paid for this car. It was actually $2,000, and I bought it from a friend of mine. He actually kinda got screwed over on it, so I kinda helped him out, but really these things are worth some pretty good money. They're going up in value right now. You can't really find them on the auctions. I was searching for some and they were going for like $2,000 to $4,000, but I'm glad we got this one in really good condition. So let's go ahead and jack it up. So we got the car jacked up in there. Now what we're gonna do is start slowly disassembling this front end. I wanna make sure there's no hidden damage or anything like that. And we also wanna get rid of these ugly American style bumpers. We're gonna get the Euro style bumpers. They look so much better on these cars. I'm pretty sure they put these on there for the US regulations, but let's go ahead and start taking this thing apart. So we got most of the front end taken apart here, and I've noticed there is a little bit of damage right here, but I'm guessing that might have just been the bumper just pushed in a little bit right there. And we don't have much rust. We do have a little bit of surface rust on stuff like this hook right here, which is expected, especially on a car this old. And then we have a little bit of rust on these brackets. It looks like this headlights right here were actually replaced because these look a little dim. So we'll definitely be getting some new aftermarket ones later for that. So we got mostly everything apart in the front end and everything looks good. There's no major frame damage or anything like that. So that's a big plus. Now once we get to this engine right here, this thing only has 102 horsepower, so we're definitely gonna have to swap it out for something better, because I was thinking maybe turbocharging this engine, but 102 horsepower, you're gonna get maybe 300-400 with the turbo, and it's gonna be really unreliable. So I'm thinking maybe some type of V8, maybe an LS or a Coyote, because I really wanna hit like 1,000 horsepower so we can like race the Goon Squad's Lamborghini, maybe their Viper, take it to the drag strip, do some pretty cool stuff with this car. So now let's go ahead and start taking some of this stuff apart. And I did notice there's some rust issues back here, which we'll have to address in a little bit. I'm guessing the old battery started leaking over there. But let's go ahead and just start removing all this stuff and then hopefully start on the motor. Guys, we do have some serious rust issues back here. Look at that, you can just stick your hand basically into the firewall right here. That kind of sucks, that's a bummer. Didn't really notice that at first because it had that nice, big, beautiful Optima battery in there. I'm guessing they did that on purpose just to hide all the rust, but that's okay. I think we can easily just cut some pieces of metal and fix that up. Let's continue moving on. So we got everything unplugged off the motor. Now it's time to just go ahead and grab the cherry picker and lift this thing out of the car. So we got the entire engine out, and check out how much room is in here to put any kind of engine we want. Just this huge engine bay in there. Now what we're gonna do is go ahead and start taking off all the smaller stuff like these AC lines and some of this wiring, because we really want to get down to this rust right here, and also start on this engine bay because we're going to be doing a full respray. So let's go ahead and get all this stuff off. So we got mostly everything disassembled from the front end of this car. We got everything off over there, all the wiring. So now what we're gonna do is basically take this car outside and give it a nice pressure wash, clean all this grease and grime over like 30 years of just dirt. So let's go ahead and get it outside and get it all washed. So we got the car outside. Now we're gonna use this degreaser right here and basically just spray it all over all this stuff. And then we're gonna get the pressure washer and then pressure wash everything. So we got the entire engine bay nice and clean, and we don't really have much rust after we cleaned everything off. There's a little bit of surface rust we can hit with the wire wheel, but we do have the major rust area right here. You can actually see right into the car. We got everything cleaned up, so we're gonna have to cut a patch out right there. We're gonna go ahead and let all this dry and pull it back in the shop, but you guys probably noticed there's another E30 in the shop. It's actually my brother's. They have a YouTube channel called Motorhead. Let's go ahead and check that thing out. So here's my brother's E30, that's Mark, that's Yuri. They're building this insane E30 on their channel, Motorhead Co. So go ahead and check them out. We're gonna have kind of like a build off. They already stripped down their entire car. So what are you guys thinking on doing with this thing?
So I actually ordered a full M3 conversion. It comes with the quarter panels, the C-pillar, the trunk, the fenders, bumpers, everything. And then we also have a S2000 motor that we're gonna turbo. And the reason we went with the S2000 motor is because we wanted a 4-cylinder because the M3 has a 4-cylinder. So I think it's gonna pair really well. And then we're gonna also shave this engine bay, make everything nice and clean, and hopefully it'll be a really nice ripper.
They're going a bit extreme on their build. As you can see, they're doing all kinds of engine shaving and stuff like that. We're not gonna go that far with our car. And they also have a cool S2000 engine. Let's go ahead and check that thing out. Here's the engine they're going to be using. It's a 2002 S2000 engine, I'm pretty sure, with a turbo kit. This thing's going to be producing what, around 500-600 horsepower?
About around 650 wheel is what I'm looking for. And it's the AP1, so it's gonna scream at 9,000 RPM. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, and here's the block they had right here. They already built the motor mounts and did all kinds of cool stuff. So make sure you guys check out their channel. They're getting a lot of progress done, but now let's get back to work on our car. So we got the car back inside. Everything is nice and dried up. Now what we're gonna do is start working on this rust repair. What I'm thinking on doing is simply just cutting this all the rust out, and then we'll probably make another piece for. We do have some metal left over from our Mustang build, so let's grab a grinder and start cutting all this rust off. So we have all the rust removed. We just cut it all off with a grinder. Now what we need to do is grab the grinder with the wire wheel and start wire wheeling all this to see if we need to cut more rust off, because we want to get all the rusted metal off so it doesn't continue on rusting. So let's go ahead and grab the wire wheel and clean all this up. So we did some wire wheeling and we did expose some more rusted spots, so we did have to cut it down a little bit more. Now what we're gonna do is grab some cardboard and start making some templates, and then we'll transfer that over to steel and then weld up this area. So we got all the cardboard cut out perfectly, exactly how we need it. Now what we need to do is grab all this cardboard, place it on top of some steel and trace it just like a template, and then we'll get those steel pieces and put them back on here. So we got these 4 plates welded in really nice and secure. We did have a little bit of trouble welding where there was some seam sealer, I guess, stuck on the back of the metal on the original car, but everything got welded up really nice and tight. We still have a little bit more to weld down here. We're going to do a little bit more trimming, but that's going to be it on that. So that's going to be a wrap for today's video. We got a lot of work done on this car. We got the rust repair almost complete. We have a little bit of stuff to weld up. We got the engine out of the car. I'm super excited to be working on this car. It's going to go a lot quicker than working on our Mustang over there because everything has to be super custom, but hopefully this car will go a lot smoother and we can get more episodes out for you guys. And then in the next episode, we're going to go ahead and start removing most of the windows, the entire dash, and everything inside, because we are going to be doing a full roll cage in this car. So we're going to have to remove the dashboard, all this other stuff, and hopefully we don't find any more rust. But I think the only reason that area over there rusted was because the battery was leaking. So make sure you guys check your batteries. And then once we get everything stripped down, we're going to start getting it ready for paint. What color do you think we should paint it, guys? I was thinking maybe like a light blue, maybe a dark blue. Go ahead and drop a comment down below. What do you guys think? If you guys enjoyed today's video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, drop a like, make sure your post notifications are on because we're going to be dropping a lot of these E30 videos. This build should go pretty quick. Thank you guys for watching, and also don't forget to follow me on Instagram at vTuned, and head over to vTuned.com if you want to copy some merch.